Welcome to Mysteries and Crime, where we uncover the shadows lurking behind unsolved disappearances. Tonight, a cruise ship sailing through the Caribbean. A young woman vanishes without a trace, and a trail of disturbing sightings suggests something far more sinister than an accident. Could a crucial moment have changed everything? Clue question. What small but vital detail in Amy Lynn Bradley's last known moments could have altered her fate? Will you spot tonight's clue? Write your answer below in the comments. Amy Lynn Bradley was 23 years old when she disappeared from Rhapsody of the Seas, a cruise ship bound for the island of Curaçao. It was the early morning of March 24th, 1998, and Amy was last seen on the ship's deck. What happened next remains an enduring and chilling mystery. The Caribbean sky had just begun shifting from deep navy to soft morning hues when Ron Bradley awoke. He glanced toward the small balcony of their cabin, where he had last seen his daughter, Amy, just hours before. But now, she was gone. At first, there was no reason to panic. Perhaps she had gone for coffee or a morning stroll. But as the minutes passed, worry crept in. Amy was not the type to wander off alone. Her mother, Iva, began checking common areas. Her brother, Brad, asked around. Nothing. Then the announcement started. The Bradley family pleaded with the ship's crew to make an urgent public announcement. A brief search followed. Security assured the Bradleys that Amy must have fallen overboard. But that explanation made no sense. Amy was a trained lifeguard. She was a strong swimmer. The ship's rails were high, no signs of struggle. And then, a chilling realization. The ship had docked. Passengers were disembarking. If Amy had been taken, she was already gone. But gone where? And more importantly, by whom? Amy Lynn Bradley was more than just a missing person's name in a police file. She was a vibrant, athletic young woman with a fierce independence and a contagious laugh. Born on May 12, 1974, Amy grew up in Petersburg, Virginia, where she excelled in athletics. She was a star player on her college basketball team, loved animals, and had an adventurous spirit that set her apart. She was also cautious. Friends and family all echoed the same sentiment. Amy was not naive. She was street smart, aware of her surroundings, and always alert in new environments. Amy had been hesitant about the cruise. The idea of being confined on a ship surrounded by strangers made her uneasy, but her family convinced her. This was a chance to relax before starting a new job. As the cruise progressed, Amy seemed to be enjoying herself. Yet something about that last night on board was different. She had been seen socializing with members of the ship's band, Blue Orchid. She had danced. She had laughed. But there was a moment, captured by witnesses, when she looked uneasy. Did she sense something? And if so, did she tell anyone? From the moment Amy disappeared, theories flooded in. Had she simply fallen overboard? Unlikely. There was no evidence to support it. Had she left voluntarily? Even more improbable. Her ID, wallet, and shoes were left behind. That left only one possibility. Someone had taken her. The ship's band, Blue Orchid, immediately caught attention. Witnesses recalled seeing Amy dance with one of the members, Alistair Yellow Douglas. He had been friendly, perhaps too friendly. He had even invited her for drinks. But what made him truly suspicious was his comment to another passenger, hours before Amy disappeared. He had allegedly said, "She's got the kind of body that would make a good market in my country." And then, There were the crew members. Multiple passengers reported that members of the ship's crew had been staring at Amy throughout the trip. A bartender had even warned her, telling her to be careful. And then there was the most chilling theory of all, that Amy had never left the ship willingly, that she had been sold into a fate worse than anyone could imagine. The timeline of Amy Lynn Bradley's disappearance is as unsettling as it is perplexing. March 24th, 1998. The last known hours. It was the early morning hours aboard Rhapsody of the Seas. The ship was sailing toward the island of Curacao, cutting through the still waters of the Caribbean. Passengers were winding down from a night of festivities. Some headed to their cabins, while others lingered on deck. Among them was 23-year-old Amy Lynn Bradley. Earlier in the evening, Amy had been seen at the ship's nightclub, dancing and drinking with other passengers and the ship's band, Blue Orchid. Witnesses recalled that one band member, Alistair Yellow Douglas, had taken particular interest in Amy. He was seen dancing with her, laughing, and getting close. But then, something changed. Several people later stated that Amy had started to look uneasy. It was subtle, a glance, a shift in body language. Had she sensed something was off? At approximately 3:30 in the morning, Amy and her brother Brad returned to their cabin. Brad lay down in his bed while Amy remained on the cabin's small balcony, gazing at the dark waves below. That was the last time Amy Lynn Bradley was seen by her family. At 5:30 in the morning, her father, Ron Bradley, woke up. He glanced toward the balcony. Amy was gone. At first, he assumed she had stepped out for coffee or an early morning swim, but as the minutes stretched on, that assumption turned into something much worse. Amy wasn't just gone. She had disappeared. Initial witness accounts. Did Amy leave the ship? The ship was about to dock. The Bradleys rushed to alert the crew. Security was notified. An announcement was made over the ship's intercom, but the crew's response was shockingly slow. Their first reaction? Amy must have fallen overboard, but there was no sign of struggle, no evidence that she had gone near the railings. Then, a disturbing witness account surfaced. A ship crew member claimed to have seen Amy at 6 in the morning, just 30 minutes after her father had discovered she was missing. She was reportedly walking toward the gangway, the exit ramp that passengers use to disembark in Curacao. She wasn't alone. The witness described two men walking with her, and most disturbingly, she appeared disoriented, possibly drugged. But this account was never verified. There was no security footage. No passengers recalled seeing Amy disembark. If she had been taken off the ship, it had been done quietly, discreetly, possibly against her will. Had someone been watching her that night? Had they waited for the perfect moment to strike? Strange interactions? Did Amy sense she was in danger? As investigators dug deeper into Amy's final hours, unsettling details emerged. Days before she disappeared, Amy had mentioned to her parents that some of the ship's crew members were paying too much attention to her. She had felt uncomfortable. A bartender had even warned her, telling her to be careful. But careful of what? Why did multiple crew members seem so fixated on her? And then, a chilling revelation. A fellow passenger later recalled hearing a disturbing comment from Alistair Yellow Douglas, the band member who had danced with Amy the night before. He had reportedly told another guest, "She's got the kind of body that would make a good market in my country." Was this an offhanded remark? Or was it something more? Theories emerge. Was Amy taken, with no evidence of a fall, No confirmed sightings of her leaving the ship voluntarily, and no reason for her to have run away. One terrifying theory took hold. Amy had been abducted. The theory gained traction when the Bradleys began receiving chilling reports. Witnesses claimed to have seen Amy, not just in Curaçao, but in other Caribbean locations. And then, years later, came the most haunting evidence of all. A photograph, taken inside a brothel in Curaçao. The image showed a woman sitting on a bed. Her expression was blank, her body language stiff, her eyes filled with something indescribable. Was it fear? Was it Amy? Her parents believed it was. Experts believed it was. But by the time authorities arrived at the location, she was gone. Gone again. And still, no one knew where she had been taken, or if she was even still alive. Final questions, a mystery that haunts us still. Amy's case remains one of the most disturbing unsolved disappearances in modern history. Had she been stalked on the ship? Were multiple people involved? And most importantly, did someone or something prevent her from ever coming home? The investigation into Amy Lynn Bradley's disappearance was flawed from the start. When the Bradley family pleaded with the ship's crew to make a public announcement early on the morning of March 24th, they were met with reluctance. The ship's security conducted a quick and insufficient search, mostly limited to public areas. Critical locations, crew quarters, storage rooms, and restricted access areas were not thoroughly checked. By the time Royal Caribbean staff officially declared Amy missing, it was too late. The ship had already docked in Curaçao. Hundreds of passengers had disembarked. If Amy had been forcibly removed from the ship, then the chances of finding her had already dwindled to almost nothing. The FBI eventually became involved, interviewing passengers and crew, but the lack of immediate containment made their job nearly impossible. Authorities on the island of Curaçao were notified, but with no concrete leads, there was little they could do. Time, the most valuable asset in a missing persons case, had already run out. Years passed with no significant breakthroughs, until a disturbing photograph surfaced in 2005. The investigation faced overwhelming forensic challenges, and the biggest one? A complete lack of physical evidence. There were no bloodstains, no DNA, no fibers, no fingerprints. Amy's belongings were still in the cabin, untouched. There was no indication of a struggle. It was as if she had simply disappeared into thin air. The lack of surveillance cameras on Rhapsody of the Seas was a glaring failure. If security footage had captured Amy's movements, investigators might have pinpointed where she went, and with whom. Instead, authorities had to rely on scattered witness testimonies. Some passengers claimed to have seen her with members of the ship's band. Others believed she was spotted with unknown men near the gangway. None of these accounts could be verified. Then came the photograph. A grainy image of a woman in a brothel in Curaçao. Her eyes were hollow, her expression frozen. Experts examined the image, and Amy's parents were certain it was their daughter. But without a location, without concrete proof, Amy remained lost. Amy's disappearance shook the world because it shattered the illusion of safety. A cruise ship was supposed to be a sanctuary, an enclosed paradise where nothing could go wrong. But Amy's case proved otherwise. Rumors swirled. Some believed she had been kidnapped and sold into human trafficking. Others were convinced that the ship's crew knew more than they were admitting. Theories ranged from an organized abduction to an inside job involving multiple individuals. The Bradley family received tips, countless tips, but none led to Amy. Some believed she was still alive. Others feared the worst. And the world watched and waited. The media latched onto Amy's case with intense scrutiny. News outlets spread the story across the United States and beyond. The Bradley family appeared on The Oprah Winfrey Show, Dr. Phil, and Unsolved Mysteries. Each segment reignited hope, bringing in new tips, new theories, and new desperation. The FBI placed Amy on its missing persons list. A reward was offered. People claimed to have seen her in Curacao, in the Caribbean, even in South America. But with no concrete leads, the case remained frozen in time. And the question loomed. Was Amy still out there, waiting to be found? There is no shortage of theories about what happened to Amy Lynn Bradley. One of the most sinister involves human trafficking. Multiple sources, including former Navy personnel, claimed that Amy had been spotted in known brothels under heavy guard. These accounts suggested she had been kidnapped, sold, and forced into a life of captivity. Another theory centers around the crew members. Witnesses reported that several staff members had been watching Amy closely in the days leading up to her disappearance. A bartender allegedly warned her to be careful. But of what? The band Blue Orchid also raised suspicions. Alistair Yellow Douglas had been overly familiar with Amy, and his eerie comment about her body being good for the market sent chills down investigators' spines. Yet despite these suspicions, no arrests were ever made. There was no trial, no formal suspects, no arrests. Amy Lynn Bradley's case never reached a courtroom. Instead, it became a tragic symbol of missed opportunities, of investigative failures, of justice denied. The Bradley family never gave up. They hired private investigators. They followed every lead. They even received a chilling email from a man claiming to have seen Amy, claiming she was being held against her will, but without evidence, there could be no action. The case remained open, unresolved, a haunting reminder of how easily someone could vanish without a trace. And to this day, Amy's fate remains unknown. Decades have passed, but Amy's case still haunts the world. Was she taken off the ship? If so, how? Did someone on board orchestrate her disappearance? And most importantly, is she still alive? The photograph, the sightings, the eerie warnings, they all point to something far darker than an accidental fall. Could one moment, one decision, have changed Amy's fate? Amy's disappearance changed the way people viewed cruise ship safety. Families became more cautious. Investigators pushed for better security measures, more cameras, stricter background checks for crew members, and better emergency protocols. But even with these changes, Amy's case remains a chilling reminder that safety is never guaranteed, and the questions remain unanswered. As we close the chapter on the disappearance of Amy Lynn Bradley, we are left with more questions than answers. Could a single clue have changed the course of history? What do you think happened to Amy? Drop your theories in the comments below. As always, stay curious, stay vigilant, and stay safe.